that explosive episode 1, chapter 1 of The Mandalorian. It seemed like the Star Wars fandom was pretty positive about it. Does episode 2 continue that trend? We're going to talk about that and much more. Alright, so chapter 2 of The Mandalorian was titled The Child, directed by Rick Famuyiwa. Target in hand, the Mandalorian must contend with scavengers. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Elliot here today to talk about the second episode of The Mandalorian. I'm very excited to talk about it with you all, but before we dive into that, definitely consider subscribing to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with our content. And then if and when you've seen this latest episode of The Mandalorian, I want to know what you all are thinking in the comment section. Let's have some fun dialogue and discussions and theories in the comments below. So, like I did with my chapter 1 review, which you can check out on this channel. I'm going to touch briefly on the non-spoilers on the first half of this video. Let's talk about my overall thoughts and things of that nature without spoiling anything for those that haven't seen the episode quite yet. And then on the back half of this review here, I'm going to touch on the spoilers. So that's kind of the layout here. So let's just jump right into it. Overall thoughts, Rick Fukudama, who I'm a fan of, not only from his 2015 movie Dope, but I've been following him since the late 90s with the Wood, and then in the early 2000s, Brown Sugar. I really like his flavor and what he has to bring to the table. And you can definitely get those vibes in this episode from Rick Fukudama in regards to his style, his tone, his sensibilities. And I'm really excited to see the rest of the season play out. He will be returning, I believe, in episode 6, but it's very interesting that they chose different directors to direct different episodes. But overall, I thought that this was more or less a continuation of chapter 1. This, to me personally, I'll talk about it a little bit more in my spoilers. This, to me, it could have fit into one episode and just continued the narratives from there. But, we get 2 separate episodes, and this continues the journey from chapter 1, and we learn a little bit more about the Mandalorian in regards to his morals and his moral compass, and kind of how he handles certain bounties and how he handles certain situations, as well as, without spoiling anything from chapter 1, we get a little bit more information about the character that we get at the end of the chapter 1 there. We get more of Nick Nolte's character. We get some familiar characters in the films that are injected in this episode. And just, again, it was just a good episode of following the journey of the Mandalorian, following the journey of a bounty hunter, and what it takes to be a bounty hunter, and kind of the day in the life of a bounty hunter per se. So really enjoyed the episode. There are some criticisms that I'll talk more on towards my spoiler half of this review, but overall I'm very satisfied with this chapter 2, The Child, as it was titled. So now, overall thoughts there. We're going to jump into the spoiler section. So if you haven't seen the episode, check it out, and then you can join the conversation on the spoiler half. So let's talk about the actual episode. It picks up, and this is going to be more in detail, so spoilers here. It picks up right after episode 1, once we find that Yoda creature baby. The Mandalorian has him. He took out the Imperial droid, played by Taika Waititi. We see him immediately fighting off more bounty hunters that want this bounty, the creature. We see him take him out very quickly, as well as the baby creature attempts to try to help him by getting out of his crate and all that things, and that creature is just so adorable, right? That's just a toy waiting to happen for Christmas. Sells millions of them. It's an adorable creature there. So we see the Mandalorian kind of go back to his ship. He's kind of wounded. We see he's wounded there, and baby Yoda creature is trying to help him and maybe trying to heal him. Use some of that force power that we see later in the episode, but he doesn't want him to help him because he doesn't know what he's trying to do, obviously. He doesn't know too much about this creature. So we see that the Mandalorian goes back to his ship, but we see it's been completely raided by, as I had mentioned in my non-spoilers, we get Jabba's in this episode. Takes us back to A New Hope and bringing back that flavor there. As we know, in the space, you can't just leave your ship anywhere because you will get raided, and his ship does get raided, taken down by the Jabbas. They take everything, and the ship is wrecked, and it seems to be that he's stuck on this planet. And honestly, I counted, it's probably like 11 minutes and 20 seconds into the episode, we get our first dialogue from Nick Nolte's character. He has spoken. He finally speaks as far as the spoken word in this episode. That was the first line of dialogue that we got from Nick Nolte. He said that he thought he would be dead. As we know, the Mandalorian is a Terminator, so he cannot be killed off quite yet. But the baby, we see some more cute things by Baby Yoda. He's eating the creature. But then Nick Nolte's character suggests that the Mandalorian make a trade with the Jabbas, and that's how they negotiate. So in the midst of the conversations that we see with the Mandalorian, Nick Nolte, and the Jabbas, they mention that they want the baby, they want his armor, and he says no to all that. And it was funny, they brought up a Wookiee, that the Mandalorian sounds like a Wookiee. I thought that was some funny there. And that's what I really liked about the episode. It was just fun. Again, episode 1 was definitely had some elements of fun, a little bit more darker darker tone and grittiness. But this episode was definitely more lighthearted, and I don't want to say kid-friendly, because again, Star Wars is a kid-friendly show and a movie, but it definitely was a little bit more lighthearted than the first episode, and jokes like that, like saying he was a Wookiee, definitely kind of hit it on the comedy there. So they had mentioned they'll do a trade, but they want the egg. We find out later what the egg means. The Mandalorian has to take out this huge creature, which we see him fighting and getting beat up pretty badly, and it almost looks like he's going to get killed, but Baby Yoda to the rescue. He saves him by using the Force, the first time we've seen the Force in the show here, and that obviously kind of alludes to why this asset is so important, and the Empire wants him, because obviously Empire wants as many Force users as possible to either use them on their side or take them out before they, help the rebellion and help the, all that stuff. So we see that the Baby Yoda uses his Force, and it takes a lot out of him. But then at that point, that's when the Mandalorian realizes this is a very powerful creature. I don't know if the Mandalorian has been exposed to the Force before, but based on this conversation with Nick Nolte, this might be his first time being exposed to it. So within that fight, though, I will say some of my criticisms with the episode was some of the CGI was a little off. There was some slow motion shots that I didn't think was necessary. And like I said, the CGI was a little bit off at times with that creature, but it's a little criticisms there. He retrieves the eggs, or the egg. Mano delivers the egg, and we see that the Jabbas, they eat the egg. That's what they want to do with the egg. They eat it. Nick Nolte and Mandalorian say their goodbyes. The Mandalorian offers Nick to join him, but he says he's just going to relax. The Valley's at peace, and I'm really interested to see if we get Nick Nolte again in the season, because I really like that character. I have spoken as a meme, it's a quote, we need shirts for it. I'm really enjoying that character, and I hope that we get more from him later on in the season. Wrapping up the episode, the Mandalorian ship is fixed. We get a little montage going back to the OG, kind of reminded me of Empire Strike Back, where you got Luke repairing a ship and training with Yoda, kind of had those vibes for me there. But again, this is a very contained episode. Again, this episode really focuses on a bounty hunter and what their job entails, which is they get an access or an asset, and what they have to do to get that asset to the buyer or the seller or the buyer for this point. So really, that's what I liked about this episode. Again, this really didn't I don't want to say move the narrative, but it was just a continuation of chapter 1, which personally, I'm wanting more from these episodes in regards to length. I'm surprised how short these episodes are. They feel like they're dragging. Like this, to me, episode 1 and episode 2 could have just been one large episode. It would have been under an hour, because the first episode was, 32 minutes? This was 27, so we could have gotten all this in one episode. But they're choosing to kind of tell the story the way they are. And we're learning more about the Mandalorian, his moral code to keeping the asset, especially a child, protected and safe. And he's not killing the child like other bounty hunters are attempting to do. So we're learning bits and pieces about the character, but I'm excited to see what they do with Chapter 3 in regards to how the narrative is going to be pushed. And are we going to get a season filled with like these little episodes where he's getting bounties and we're seeing how he gets the bounty and what he does to get the bounty and stuff of that nature? Or are we going to start to get more on the story come episode 3? Nevertheless, I'm really excited for this season so far. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. Yes, there's some pacing issues, some CGI issues that I mentioned a little bit earlier with the big creature, but I'm liking the narrative so far in regards to this is a journey following one Mandalorian, a bounty hunter, and what it takes to be a bounty hunter and what goes into that, being that job, being a bounty hunter there. So all in all, good episode for me. 2 for 2 so far. Very excited for this season. Excited to see all the different directors and creators being brought into this universe, in the Star Wars universe. So that's my thoughts on the episode. Pretty solid. First 2 chapters. Very excited for the rest of the season. But I would love to know what you all thought of this latest chapter of The Mandalorian. Let me know in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up. Share this video. And I will be back next week reviewing the latest episode of The Mandalorian every Friday. Keep an eye out for those reviews. As always, subscribe to our channel. Follow us on our social media accounts. I got some more content coming today and throughout the weekend. Got episodes for Apple TV Plus. Got some Netflix things coming this weekend, so keep an eye out for those reviews. Thank you all for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.